Hey, Cradily26 here at the PCL, bringing you guys the video for the power rankings of the Generations League for Season 4. We skipped this last season and we apologize for that. Not exactly sure why it kind of fell through, but I wanted to make sure to bring it to you guys personally this season, especially because I'm in the Generations League, and just give you guys our kind of overall rankings of the teams as they are right now. I did take into effect any FAs up to this point, but hopefully you guys take what I show you here and make your teams a little better if you need to. So first off, here is the league. It's been seeded, everybody should be set, everyone should have seen the schedule, but this is what we are looking at as far as Ruby, Sapphire, Diamond, and Pearl divisions. Now remember, you face everybody in your conference, so the Hoenn Conference, everyone in Ruby and Sapphire will all play each other, and everyone in Diamond and Pearl will all play each other. And then we set up the rival system. Hopefully you guys enjoyed doing that. That was kind of fun. So we're really looking forward to getting things started. But here are the power rankings. I'm going to start at number 16 and work our way to number 1. Now please remember that we did try to analyze these. I had 2 other people look at it to kind of make sure we ranked the teams where we really thought they would go, and it's not just my bias. But take it with a grain of salt. We're not here to really tell you that you're really bad, but we hope that you take this and learn from it. So 16, we're going to have the Cleveland CLEFAIRYs. So this was the team that tried to build Stall. So it has some of the nice pieces to build a decent stall. You've got Sableye, which is really nice. You've got Chansey, Aromatisse is fairly decent. Cofagrigus I really love, but then they threw in a couple other pieces, I think, to try to make sure they could switch it up so that you just bring stall every week. So you've got Kartana and Hydreigon, stuff like that. Hitmontop is a nice spinner. Mineshow is really strong. I really like that. So why did we put this at 16 though? I think the biggest thing for us is this is the biggest fairy weakness in the league. Just about everything on here is weak to fairy. Besides, the only resists you've got are Arcanine and Kartana, and Kartana, as you guys know, is made out of paper. Its special defense is super low, so it's not going to take hits very well. As far as a stall team, you probably want to maybe invest in a bulky steel instead of such an offensive steel type, especially with all this fairy weakness when you look through here. So maybe something to work on, but I do think it has good pieces. They did get Slowbro. Slowbro's always been such a good Pokemon in our draft. So I think they can fix some things. There's also no ground type. I think that's really glaring in any draft if you don't have a ground type. It's just one of the really important pieces for a team, in my opinion. 15, we're going to go with the New York NIDOKINGS. So this draft looks kind of okay when you first just glance at it on paper. They've got some big names on there. You've got Volcarona, you've got Azelf, Infernape, Serperior, some really strong Pokemon for draft. But then you kind of analyze what kind of types they have. There are 3 fire types on this team. There are 3 flying types. There's 2 psychic and 2 poison. So there are plenty of rockers on the team. We give them that. The hazard control is okay for Volcarona, and that's really important. So I don't want to bash the team too much for that. They did try to get a decent spinner in Blastoise and some defogs here and there. Crobat, really good defogger, so that's good. But there's no darks, there's no electrics, and there's no ground type. Like I said, ground is super good. Dark, in my opinion, is super good. Maybe not quite as important, but it's really important. And electric, I think electric is really good to be able to handle a lot of bulky water types out there. Electric is just really nice to have. This team is lacking all of that. I think they need to really go through and get rid of a fire type. You don't need Magmortar. That would be where I would drop it first, because I mean Volcarona and Infernape are good. They're very good. So I would drop Magmortar and look in tier 5. There's plenty of good things in tier 5. Try to pick up something else. For electric, you're really going to have to work around with that. Maybe look in tier 4. Sigilyph isn't really needed since you have Azelf. Azelf has already got Levitate and is a strong psychic type, so Sigilyph doesn't fit here. Altaria, kind of the same. You've got a flying type. And it's not a good dragon to really have, so maybe you could try to look for another dragon too. I just think overall it's just, there's good mons on here. It's just missing some really key pieces to what I would consider a good draft. Next up, we've got Boston Celebis. This was a tough one, but I just think it might be a little too heavy on the sand. So this is Sandy Shoes. Going for another weather team. Was Icy Shoes last season. So 4 ground types. That's really interesting, but it does make the team very ice weak over anything. Especially, I mean, you've got Garchomp. There's a 4 times ice weakness right there. Donphan and Nidoqueen are ice weak. Excadrill is at least, you know, maybe not going to get one-hit KO'd by some ice moves, but it's still... And then you've got Celebi on there, another big ice weakness. So basically your only switch-ins are Azu and Emboar, pretty safely. So that's kind of going to be tough. Musharna Z, we don't understand that pick. You have Heliolisk. I think that's a better option for your low tier Z captain. Can be pretty decent, can nuke, it has a special attack. The other problem, I think, besides focusing on the sand aspect, is the team is slow. It's a really slow team. Excadrill obviously in sand is going to be really fast. Outside of sand it's going to struggle if people are able to stop it. And then Heliolisk is the fastest Pokemon on this list. And to me, that's just too slow. I really like having something at least above 110, if not above 115 speed, just to be able to check a lot of big threats. And Heliolisk, I just don't think can do that, because you're going to have to run Scarf. You're going to be forced to run Scarf Heliolisk a lot with this team to be able to outpace a lot of big threats. So that can be kind of, I think, troublesome for the team. Overall, I think it is a fairly decent sand draft. Something I would maybe do is, instead of trying to load up on all the ground types, try to get something like Stoutland, who has Sand Rush and is not, you know, a ground type. So you're kind of mixing your types up, but you're still kind of utilizing that sand. Look into stuff like that if you really want to go full on the sand. But I mean, if you're facing this team, I don't think you're ever not going to bring sand, just because how core it is to the team. I just think it went a little too heavy. But get some speed. I think that would fix a lot more than that. Figure out your speed issues, because everything is going to outspeed you. You're going to have a lot of trouble. You don't have... I think maybe Musharna gets Trick Room, but it might not be the best setter. So it's going to be tough to be able to get a Trick Room up to use this team. Alright, 13, LITTLEROCK LYCANROC. This team we originally had at number 16, but they fixed some stuff, which is nice. You can see the original team above me missing a lot of things. Again, this is a team that picked some very good mons, but just had so many holes in the team, but they fixed it. The biggest was there was no ground type. Mamoswine was still available, so they dropped Cresselia for Mamoswine, which was good because they already had a psychic type in Slowking. You didn't need Cresselia. There was no need to have 2 bulky psychics. Dunsparce was a weird pick. I've never seen it picked, so they dropped that for Hitmonchan, gave him a spinner. The fighting type is pretty decent, which is pretty nice. Pick up overall. It's especially nice to have a good spinner like that for Moltres. Moltres is a really good mon. It just needs the help. But you also have Skarmory. Skarmory is probably the best defogger you could ask for. Which is really nice. The typing hole now that's left over is still Dark type. Again, I think Dark type is really important. Some people might disagree with that, but it's always on my list to get a Dark type. Being able to Pursuit Trap things is really nice. Having something immune to Psychic types is so good, because Psychic types are so strong. So I think it's just a nice type to have to be able to switch in when you need it. But yeah, just fix up some of the typing holes. I think Xurkitree Z, plus you've got Tyrantrum. I mean, you're going to be able to break through anything. Like the stall team we talked about, if you face the stall team, like Tyrantrum is just not going to care. And just bust through it. So you've got the power, just fix up some of the typing holes so that people don't take advantage of your team, I think. Dragon's Den at number 12. This is Az's team. Good picks, bad picks. I think the biggest grievance for us is that both of your tier 1 picks are psychic types. And not just psychic types, but psychic types that kind of fill a similar role. So it's tough to really say that that's good. Like, I feel like in draft you really want some diversity, so I don't think Latias and Mew are going to pay off. You do have Alola Tails, and I think what we were thinking when we were looking at this is, hey, you could totally drop Latias, because I mean Mew with our Z captains now is going to be really, really good. So I would keep Mew. I would drop Latias, sadly, and I would pick up Salamence. You've got Salamence there with Alola Ninetales behind Veil. If you get Salamence behind Veil, it's going to be able to really do some damage. The other option is Dragonite, which is still a really good one to be able to throw behind, but I think something a little more offensive like Salamence would do this team wonders. It is a fairly passive team to me, to be honest. Mega Gyarados is the only really, really solid, I think, offensive piece. You've got Miltank, which is nice. You've got Serena, is a good spinner. Rotom is always great. Rotom Heat. Palisand is pretty decent. Ariados is bad. We talked about that. We realized that it's probably, you picked it for having a grounded poison type, which is fair. Like, it's really important to have that to be able to get rid of toxic spikes. But as far as a Weber, like Masquerain, something like that is going to be a lot better. Just in my opinion, I think it's just better. And you have Chata there. I don't think Chata is that good. I know a lot of people really like Chata. I don't think it's that good. I don't think it helps the team very much. You don't have issues being on the ground. You've got plenty of things off the ground. With this team, I don't think Chata is needed. You could find something else, in my opinion. But honestly, Ariados, like, you could drop Chata for a grounded poison if you really need, but I would ditch Ariados and get Masquerain right away. I think that would be another big improvement. But biggest improvement, I would drop Latias and look for a different tier 1 dragon. Would fix it. But otherwise, decent. Like, it's got power. It's got the power it needs. It just has some redundant typings that people could probably abuse. Number 11, Pacific Pikachus. This is Lit Boy's team. It's got Celesteela, which is the best Draftmon. And you throw Galvantula on there. This is a really decent webs team. It's a very slow team, but you have the webs, so that makes it at least a little usable. I thought Snorlax, Trevenant, and Pikachu weak picks. Especially, I mean, Pikachu was, I'm guessing, for fun. You wanted your mascot. That's great, but I don't think it's solid. Trevenant is bad. I always see people try to draft it, and they try to use it, and they end up trading it because it just doesn't do what you want it to do. There's better grass types in tier 5 if you really need it. I just don't like Trevenant. I don't think it's good. And then Snorlax hasn't done much since we moved it to tier 2. It is strong. I mean, this team is so slow, I think you could drop it to pick up at least one fast Pokemon. It's when Galvantula is your fastest Pokemon on the team, you don't have any options to really run much. I mean, you have Ambipom, which isn't offensively inclined really, so it's just tough. I like webs teams a lot. I used to run webs teams a lot. I did that the first season. Loved Galvantula, but if you don't have at least one Pokemon above 115 speed, I just don't. Like, you're just relying on it too much. As soon as people figure it out, they get rid of your webs, they kill Galvantula, you are in for some hurt. It's just not good. I do think, though, Heatran and Celesteela make a nice team because they don't share any weaknesses, which is really good. I really like that, and I think Gastrodon kind of pulls that together, being able to soak up water for Heatran. It's really nice, because Celesteela doesn't want to switch into a Scald. It's not good for Celesteela either. But I do think that double steal is good, and that's one of the reasons we put it a little higher. And then, just like some of the previous teams, you don't have a dark type. I think it's important. I would look into that. Personally, I think dark is good. Number 10, we have Brian and his Crystal Bay Cryogonal. This was a tough one for me. I ranked it a little lower. I was convinced otherwise. So some of the trades were Hitmonlee to Vaporeon and Mamoswine to Gengar. As much as I hate somebody dropping Mamoswine because it's so good, that helps because the speed is the issue here, like with some of the previous teams. Now Gengar is the fastest thing. It's pretty decent. Before that, it was Mega Gardevoir at 100 speed. And it's like, again, this is a webs team. You've got Slurpuff. You can try to abuse the webs. But if you just go too heavy on the webs, people figure it out. People can taunt. People can, you know, just defog, rapid spin, whatever. Like, webs, you can't rely on it too heavily, in my opinion. But overall, Gengar improves that. You've got at least one pretty decent fast Mon. I would consider picking up maybe one more, but that's just me. I don't think you're not as reliant on it as the previous team, at least, I think. And then Crystal Z, I don't understand. Vikavolt would probably be better if you're going to go on webs. Vikavolt can nuke a lot better than I think Crystal can. I just don't think putting the Z on a tier 5 is quite worth it with this team. Just looking at it, and even Delmise I think could run the Z Crystal, personally. I think it's got 3 stabs, it's got decent attack. I think you could even try that. But honestly, I think Vikavolt's the best choice there. Komo was a really good Z choice, though. That one's really good. I like it. Alright, Solgaleo. LA Solgaleo. So this is the rain team. We've got just about all the different weathers on this list. So, Manaphy Z, super good. Mega Swampert, super good. Really good rain synergy. Quad water. But I mean, water is such a good type. Like, yes, you can have too much water, but it's still a really strong type. It doesn't have many weaknesses. It really makes it hard for the opponent to be able to kill things. The one big thing is grass types. Grass types, which there aren't, someone tried telling me there aren't too many good, you know, decent grass types to be able to handle this team, but I mean, when you face those teams, you're going to have no options. Zapdos is about the only decent thing to switch into a stab grass move. I mean, you've got Bronzong and Klefki, but they are super passive and not going to be able to do much in the way of getting rid of those besides a toxic. So that's my grievance with this team. I do think from here on we're kind of getting to the better teams. There's a little less bad about it. I just think that the grass is going to be a problem, and that's maybe an area that they should look into. Maybe a poison type. They don't have a poison on the team. There's no grounded poison, so toxic spikes could have a lot of fun with this team. There is Klefki though, which is really nice tech for stuff like that. But I think maybe a grounded poison would give the team a little bit more, in my opinion. Number 8, so we're right at the halfway point here. We've got HOMEPARK, HONCHKROW, George's team. A-Raichu needs to go. You don't have Koko. There's no point in Raichu. Other than that, though, you've got Charizard Y, which I always say is probably the worst tier 1 Mega, but I hope you prove me wrong. Again, you just need to be able to spin. Get a spinner, I think, because you've got Rabombi and you've got Char Y, so running the webs is really nice, but with webs, I really like to see a spinner and a defogger. Having the spinner just gives you the option to get rid of their hazards, the Stealth Rock that's going to try to kill Charizard Y, and keep your webs up. So I think we had mentioned Volbeat isn't needed. You have Rabombi. You don't need Volbeat. There's zero reason for this team to have Volbeat. Drop that for a good spinner. Armaldo or Kabutops I think could be pretty strong here for a spinner. So maybe look into those for tier 5. Tier 5 has decent spinners. And then you don't really abuse the Sun besides Venusaur, and Venusaur is going to be the Z captain we found out. So Venusaur Z with Charizard Y is good. I think that's pretty decent, pretty solid, and you're not relying heavily on Charizard Y. I think that's important with these weather teams. You've got some pieces to work with it, but you're not going to rely so heavily on it, and I think that's important. I think that's about it. Just get a spinner. That's my one big grievance with it. Get a spinner. Alright, number 7, we've got TULSA, TOGEDEMARU. This is Nate's team. We did find out that the Thundurus is Thundurus T. I don't think that really changes much. I would still put it in the same place. Thundurus, I mean, does pair really well with the team. Silvally, obviously really good, but it's not a good Z captain. Hint, hint. Should probably change that. Fire, I think, was the biggest issue with this team. Fire hurts a lot. You don't have many switch-ins. Like, you've got Mega Blastoise, and that's about it. The rest of the team is gonna... I mean, then you've got Darmanitan. I would look at something else, maybe. I mean, I guess you have Goodra too. Maybe, I mean, it's not quite as bad, but you do have a lot more weaknesses than resists to fire. And then as far as stealth, I mean, I think Stealth Rock is really important. Having rockers is good. You're kind of lacking rockers. You've got Rachi, I think. This team is very weak to spikes and T-spikes. No grounded poison. Foggers and Spinners are all grounded, so if somebody puts, like, if I was against this team, I would just put Toxic Spikes, and if they have to switch in their Spinner or Defogger, they're gonna get poisoned or toxic. So that might be something to look into. Look into something off the ground that can help a little more. I guess there's Thundurus, but running Defog on Thundurus is probably not the greatest idea in the world. But just something to look into. Probably just hazard control for this team. Otherwise, really solid team, and I think gonna be one of the better teams this season, for sure. Very strong Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Number 6, Jersey Jellicent. This is Thoro's team. He is new to us this season. I like the bulk on this team, actually. When he was drafting it, Tangrowth, Florges, Alomomola are solid, really good. You've got Scizor in there, which is nice. Claydol was dropped, though, for Flygon, and you have Charizard X, so I don't think you needed the Dragon. I personally thought Claydol was probably a little better than Flygon, but maybe you're going to prove me wrong. I just didn't like that trade. And then you're only, because you dropped Claydol, though, your only Stealth Rocker is Regirock. That's it. You don't have any other Stealth Rocker on this team. So that can be a problem if you're going to, like, nobody's going to really expect hazards from you, and if they do, they know you're going to lead with Regirock. You don't have any other options, really, and that's, to me, just a little glaring there. So maybe look into getting a rocker or hazard setter. Just anything to get a little hazards on your team, I think, is always really good. Otherwise, though, good, strong. Momentum on the team is really good. I like it. You've got the offense, you've got the defense. Good balanced team. So now our top 5. So this team, HYRULE JOLTZ. This is Aqua's team. At first we had this ranked very high until we noticed a huge weakness. The biggest weakness, I think, in the whole draft. It's still a really strong team. The picks are super good. Latios, insane. Megalopunny, insane. Tornadus. Actually, yeah, Tornadus T. Really good. Primarina, really good. Like, these are strong picks. Ferrothorn, so good. So those are all good. And we did notice at first that the team had 3 grass types and was a little flying weak. We noticed the flying at first and we're like, oh yeah, you know, something like Staraptor could really run through this team, but besides that, it's still really good. So we had it, I think, at number 3. And then somebody pointed out that 6 of the Pokemon on this list of 11 are weak to ice. 6 of your Pokemon being weak to one type, and you only have 11 Pokemon? That's a lot. That's something that I think needs to be fixed. Speed tiers, a little messy, but I'm not as big on that as maybe some other people. But I think the ice weakness is just, I mean, when we were looking at the top 5, we just couldn't put this at number 3 with that. Like, anyone could just abuse that. You have a good ice type, you're just gonna run through this team like a knife through butter. Like, there's not much to switch in. There's Primarina, Typhlosion, it's not that bulky. That's it. That's it. Literally, that's it. Ferrothorn, you know, can take a hit from it, but everything's gonna run, you know, a fire move too. Like, it's just, ice is gonna run through this team and it needs to be fixed, I think. Big time. Other than, like, if they could patch that thing up with just one more, two more Pokemon, then this would have been the number 3 team. Easily. Very strong. So now number 4. 3 and 4, we went back and forth on who to put where, but we did decide for 4 we were going to do Kansas City CROBATS. This is Hoobi's team, a very offensive team. Big shock. Hoobi loves running hyper offense. We all know that. People that have been here. So Koko, Chomp, Mega Scissor. Jeez, that's a good Fairy Dragon Steel right there. Like, absolutely insane. Arguably, with maybe the next team in mind too, this team and the next team are probably the best offenses in the league. They could run a hyper offense and just run through a lot of teams. They've got speed, they've got power. I mean, you've got Koko, you've got Mega Scissor, you've got Garchomp, you've got Alakazam, Gyarados, Incineroar. Like, those are all really strong, really threatening Pokemon. How they got all of those is insane, but I mean, that's really good. So why is this one at 4? There are 3 electric types on here. Does not make sense to have them. You've got Rotom Fan for defog, sure, but that's the thing. You have this Volt Turner that's already off the ground. Why do you need Electros? It doesn't make any sense to really have on the team. Unless it's a Pokemon you want to try out, then sure. I think if you switch that for something else, that could really strengthen this here. Get something maybe a little defensive to be able to switch into things. Could be nice. Too heavy on hyper offense. People can probably counter it if they figure it out. Roost on Mega Scissor is really great. To be honest though, that's another reason why this is definitely a top 5 still. Like, you've still got the ability to keep yourself alive. But I think the reason we probably put this one at 4 is there's no hazard removal outside of Rotom Fan, who is weak to rocks, and then Mega Scissor. But please, like I put on here, please don't run defog on Mega Scissor or Koko. Like, neither of those really want it. You can run it on Koko, I could maybe see that, but don't run it on Mega Scissor. If it was regular Scissor, sure, but not Mega. It's such a good offensive piece. You throw defog on there, you're really weakening yourself. So Electros could be dropped for something to fix your hazards, maybe. Yeah, that's about it. It's really the hazard. I mean, if people stack hazards on this team, it could be tough for them to keep the pressure on, I think. Number 3 is Choice Band HEATRAN. This is from Cross, who is new to us this season as well. So this is the other team that I think just has power, offensive power. Terrakion, Mega Shark, and Victini are going to just break through teams. That is such an insane combo that should not have happened. People haven't been picking Terrakion since we moved it to Tier 1, and it's a shame, and I hope Cross takes Terrakion and just destroys everyone with it. It's really good. Couple trades, they did pick up Piloswine, so they got a ground type. That helped a lot. This team would not be up here if it didn't have that. Getting Dusknoir is pretty good. A ghost type I think is really strong. Togedemaru for Raichu. I don't really like either of those Pokemon, so I don't think it helped or hurt the team at all. So Fortress helps a lot here. As far as the hazards, it's a really good hazard remover. It's a good hazard setter. Togekiss really fits in well with the offense as kind of a piece to switch in, a bulky piece to switch in, to be able to defog, to just be able to kind of handle some of the other threats that might get to Terrak, Shark, and Victini. Other hazard options are fairly limited. The addition of Piloswine helps. It gives you another rocker, but this team can't set up hazards as much. But if they're running the hyper offense, maybe they don't really need it. I just like having a little more on there, but they at least, I think Fortress is what really puts this team above. They have a strong hazard remover. That and Togekiss at least give it something to get rid of Stealth Rocks, and that's important because the team is very rock weak. So maybe you should look into some way to patch that up, but otherwise, really good team. Definitely number 3. Looking at it again now, I do think I agree that it should be above the CROBATS. The hazard removal I think is really important for a super offensive team because hazards can just whittle your team down. Number 2 is my team, the Colorado AVALUGG. I had myself at number 3. Was convinced by other people to move myself higher, actually. So I'm not being all big-headed like, oh, I did such a good draft. Other people agreed with this, so this is where we're at. I did update mine already with my FAs. I picked up Hitmonlee and Delphox, which helped a lot. That was kind of the big glaring weakness. But Finny and Kyurem was my plan all along. That's what I really wanted to try out to see if that could be a really good, solid core. And I think it is. It's one of the better dragons to pair with Finny because I'm not reliant on Dragon Stab at all. Like, Kyurem gets so many moves. Wide move pool really strong, especially with Z captains now. Kyurem can be scary. Hitmonlee really gave me the hazard removal I needed so that I can take pressure off of Finny. That was one of the things I was told before, like Finny was kind of my go-to defogger. There was Skuntank, but I'm not going to bring that as much probably. So Finny was pressured to defog too much. I don't have a lot of momentum, and I know that. It was just hard to fit some of it in. I've got Raichu, which is really strong, really fast, and gets full switch. Priority, I'm not as worried about. I don't think it's too big a deal, but there is a lack of that on the team. But one thing someone did point out that I didn't put on these slides here was that the team is very weak at the moment because of some of the trades that were made. My poison type isn't super strong. It's Skuntank, so that doesn't help. Metagross is great though and really strong against fairies, but otherwise there's 4 fairy weaknesses, 2 resists, so fairies would hurt a little bit. I'm not sure what I can do to really fix that, but I will probably be looking into it. But besides the fairy weakness, it's a strong offensive team. It's got switch-ins, it's got pressure. It's gonna be good, hopefully. I hope I did a good job. And then number 1, Zombie with the Victoria Victinis. Zombie is new to us. We learned Zombie is in over 30 leagues. So gonna be really good. How they drafted this team is beyond me. They got Lando T and Mega Latias and Zeraora and Toxapex and Sylveon and Alolan Marowak and Lycanroc Dusk, all insanely strong. Got Alolan Persian even. Good Pokemon. The tier 5s were weak, but they traded. I do think Linoon to Braviary is good. I'm not a Linoon fan. I think it's one-dimensional and people can figure it out pretty easily. Braviary, on the other hand, is really good. I think it's underrated and a pretty strong Pokemon. It helps a lot. The biggest weakness on here that we did have to discuss was the Steel type. They did pick up Mawile. It's a tier 5. It's not Mega Mawile. It's just a little baby Mawile. And that's just not good, in my opinion. Mawile's not good enough. Steel type is extremely important in draft. So people could try to really abuse that because Steel's there to stop poison spam a lot, to stop a lot. Just other types that run through teams. Rock, I could see a rock type. I mean, you get a rock stab on this team and it's just going to pummel this team into the ground. I'm actually looking now. I don't think any, because you have Lando, nothing resists rock on this team except Mawile. That's it. So that I think is a pretty big weakness, and we look into fixing. Rock type sweeping you. But I mean, on paper, it's definitely the best team in the league by far. I think Lando T, Latias, Zeraora, that alone, like, is really strong. Teams are going to have trouble handling that unless they get a good rock type going with some speed. But yeah, those are our power rankings. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope you don't take my criticisms too hard and my bashings, but I just hope everyone kind of learns from it and sees what we see. Maybe maybe our thoughts really aren't that important and you have different plans and we're not seeing something, and that's fine. But overall, I just hope you guys learned from this, and I hope we have a really, really good Season 4. I will see you guys later.